Several of your MPs have tweeted out support for the convoy. One of them saying that he felt the Prime Minister had a vendetta against people who were unvaccinated. Do you support the convoy, its goals, its objectives, even though the Canadian Trucking Alliance says this could be disruptive? And to follow, again, repeat Louis' question, will you meet with them when they come to Ottawa?
We've been talking to the Canadian Truckers Alliance, Glenn, for several months. We've seen a crisis in the supply chain coming for several months, and we've proposed policies to try and help alleviate that. The most important of which is vaccines. And we encourage everyone to get vaccinated and to get boosted. And how can we use those tools alongside the other tools to make sure that we don't see shortages on grocery store shelves? Because here's the reality. When there's a shortage of products, the costs go up, and Canadians are already 60% worried about paying their grocery bill. So we can't have policies that make that even worse, and we can't raise taxes. So that's what we've been advocating for responsibly the last few months, Glenn, is to try and tackle the supply chain crisis, encourage vaccination, not ignore problems and divide the country like Mr. Trudeau does.
You didn't answer my question about
yes, I did, Glenn.
You didn't say whether you
are a critical tool.
You didn't say whether you meet with them.
And we need
you didn't say what,
to make sure we keep store shelves
maybe you can answer in response to my next question, sir. You can say whether you meet with them.
That's why last week, Glenn, when the policy of the federal government for less than 24 hours reversed on the situation with trucking, the government was floating whether they could actually change their policy to address the supply chain shortage, and they decided not to. I've always said getting vaccination levels up, but also using rapid tests and other tools to make sure products get to store shelves, that's what a government needs to do, and that's what we'll continue to advocate for.
You and other Conservatives have called for reasonable accommodations for truckers in particular who are unvaccinated and who could lose their job, or and that policy, according to you, could have widespread implications on our economy. But now that there are unvaccinated truckers rolling into Ottawa, you won't say whether you support them. You won't say whether you will meet with them. So what should Canadians think about your position? Do you not support the trucking convoy?
I support getting as many people vaccinated as possible, including truckers. And I've probably, with the exception of a few doctors who are on TV every day, I've probably encouraged vaccination more than any Canadian. And that's our most critical tool to reduce the severity of COVID, but also to get this public health crisis under control. I've also said there's going to be opportunity to use rapid tests and a range of issues to tackle real issues. We have a supply chain crisis right now that is helping fuel inflation, in addition to Mr. Trudeau's spending and other policies. How can we tackle that? By prioritizing vaccines, prioritizing public health, but reducing pink slips and getting goods on shelves. I think that's what governments at all levels have to do.
So what's your message then to truckers who have maybe spent the past month thinking that you kind of have their backs and calling for reasonable accommodations and rapid tests, and again, you still won't answer? Will you meet with them when they come to Ottawa? Do you support their efforts and coming all the way here? What's your message to truckers who might be disappointed that you are dodging questions and when you won't say whether you'll meet with them?
Well, let me be crystal clear. We've been meeting with the Canadian Trucking Association for several months. In fact, we've written the minister on this. And at every occasion, I encourage truckers to get vaccinated. That's the best way to keep supplies flowing. And that's how we have to tackle this pandemic. Get as many people vaccinated as possible, and also use all the other tools that we have to make sure we don't see shortages on shelves. Because what happens with shortages means prices go up. And at a time we have record inflation, Canadians can't afford that. That's why I'm calling for a break today for Canadian families. But let's be crystal clear. We can advocate for vaccines, but also advocate for people to not lose their house or their home or their livelihood if we can come up with a way to tackle the supply chain crisis in a way that's practical. Mr. Trudeau's government flip-flopped a week or so ago. They attack me with all regularity. They don't provide solutions, and they're raising taxes on Canadians, 60% of which, that's millions of people already saying they're struggling to pay their grocery bills. So let's give them more money in their pockets and let's tackle the supply chain shortage at the same time.